So I remember the legal pad. I had the legal pad and I sat down with a pen. I remember curling up, pulling my knees into my chest, real cozy, looking out across. It was winter and it was snowing. And I put the pen to page. And I kid you not, I start writing about Julie Bear. And something sparked inside of me I get chills talking about it. Something sparked in me so powerful. I just kept going and going and going and going and going. And I was like, I was really scared and I thought, I don't know if I can trust this, but I kind of just let my hand go. And it was like I was channeling something, right?
Welcome back to The Intuitive Voice with Martha Arnett and
Angela Huebner.
We are so excited to be spending time with our beautiful, amazing, talented guest, Jennifer Cervantes.
And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jennifer. Jennifer is a New York Times bestselling author. Her books for children, young adults, and adults have been published in more than 12 countries and have appeared on national lists, including the American Booksellers Association's New Voices, Barnes & Noble's Best Young Readers books, as well as Amazon's, Apple's, and Audible's Best Books of the Month. She has earned multiple awards and recognitions, including the New Mexico Book Award and the New Mexico Governor's Award for Excellence in the Arts. She currently resides in the Land of Enchantment with her family and spoiled pups, but keeps part of her heart in Southern California, where she was born and raised. When she isn't writing, she is haunting bookstores in search for magic in all corners of the world. Her work is represented by Holly Root at Root Literary.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yay!
Yay, glad to have you.
Yay! And Jen, I heard you talk at a book launch. The launch was The Anatomy of Magic book launch, right?
Yeah.
And I love so very much, the way that you weave magic into your stories, because magic has always been such a huge, important topic for me. It's very connected to inspiration and intuition. And so I would love to know, when you hear the word intuition, what immediately comes to mind, especially in the context of magic or storytelling?
Immediately, the first word that comes to my mind would be spirit. Because when I think of intuition, it somehow feels like it's not just a part of me, but it's something that's a part of something that's greater as well. And it's just a matter of, tuning into that channel and trying to find the right frequency. It's not always available. So yeah, I think for me, it would be spirit.
Oh, I love that. Can you, Ange, I don't mean to jump in, but
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about it not always being available for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm human. I have my good days and my bad days, and I think that we're always shifting our frequencies. And I think depending on who we're around, or the messages that we're ingesting that day, or the music we're listening to, or oftentimes if I'm in a really big bustling city with a lot of different energies going around, it's a little bit harder for me to find that. But when I am at home and I'm in nature and I'm around animals, and because I think they vibrate at a very specific frequency, it seems easier to tap into. I also know that when fear becomes a part of my process, I have no access to the intuitive elements at all, like zero. And so sometimes I just have to step away and start over. And that's okay. I mean, I have to practice being gentle with myself as well, because it's not something you can force. I mean, you can't sit down and force your intuition to show up to the page as a writer, or, whatever else someone is participating in.
Great. Jen, I'm wondering, does it show up in other aspects of your life too? I mean, obviously you use it for your writing. Do you tune into it on the regular anyway, or do you just that's really when you notice it is during the writing? How does that work for you?
I try, Angela. I try to tune into it. I mean, it's been such a force in my life since I was a child, and it's never, ever led me astray. And so it's just a practice of trust for me. So I definitely think that, I utilize it in everything. And I'll give you an example. So I wanted to take my mom to this shop the other day, and we've been hearing about it over and over. So, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to go see this shop. And it's a consignment store here in Santa Fe. And she was looking for something very specific. My mother loves crows. Okay. And so I put on Google Maps. I follow Google Maps and it takes me to a dead end. And I turned to my mother and I said, why? I don't understand. Why is Google Maps not working? I said, okay, let me turn around and go back to the main road. We turn around and come back to the main road. And she goes, well, what's that? And we see this warehouse on the right side of the road. I said, well, that must be it. But it didn't have the name of the shop. And because it said something about fine art and consignment. And I said, that must be it. So we go in. She literally finds an original piece with crows. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And it gets better. We're so excited. I'm like, Mom, you were meant to have this piece. This is so great. We're leaving. And she says, Jen, there's the consignment shop that you were looking for. And it was down the road. We, by accident, quote, went to the wrong place because that's where maps took me, right? And so
oh my gosh.
We thought it was the greatest wink, right, from the universe. Yes. But that is an example of when we tune into our intuition, when we let things unfold, even if it feels frustrating, like ending up at a dead end and thinking that you were taken on the wrong road, instead of just trusting the divine plan and that you're going to get to where you need to go. So that was a little bit of a long story, but I had to share it because
I love that. What I love about that too is instead of just turning around, you looked around. Yeah. Right? Like and instead of just going, oh, this is wrong, and you left, like you took a beat and you checked it out. I love that story.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. I live for those stories. And when I love that you sort of, that you brought this to your mom and in the beginning, you mentioned childhood. So tell us a little bit about how was intuition, either talked about, not talked about, enforced, encouraged, discouraged as a child?
I think that just from my own heritage and my background, growing up in a Mexican culture, I grew up in Southern California. And their magic is this everyday practice. And so I don't know that we called it magic, but there was this really deep connection to nature, to the earth, to something beyond ourselves. And so I think that it was really encouraged when I was young. Even when I think back to some of the books my mom was reading, and, it could have been something like dream interpretation or, the goddess divine or women run with wolves, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And, I was taking in those messages at some level, right? And I'm watching her read those books. And so then, of course, it sparks my own curiosity. So I definitely think that it was something that was encouraged.
That's great.
I love that.
That's great. How did intuition play any role in leading you to writing?
Oh, that's a story, Angela. Do you guys, okay. So
yes, we want to hear.
Yes,
we want those stories.
I'll give you the shortest version I can. So my life has always been synchronistic. And it is something, I was just talking to a friend this morning about this, about how do we change that paradigm that kind of keeps us locked into the same results over and over and over, right? And I was thinking about my own journey and how it's always had this kind of synchronistic bent to it. And I think because I grew up in the culture I grew up in, at the time I grew up with the parents that I have, I think that I had already started to kind of shift that paradigm a little bit. All those messages we take in from the moment we're born, 24/7. I think that I had already kind of started to shift that a little bit because one thing would synchronize. And so then I started to expect it. Right. And so in that expectation, as you both know, you get another one and another one and another one. And that's not to say that everything goes your way and everything, because that is certainly, far from that case. So this didn't surprise me. And yet it was probably one of the most magical moments of my entire life. So my husband was going to be, at the time we didn't have a home in Santa Fe. And he was going to be, our kids I have 3 daughters. They were much younger and school-aged kids. And he was going to be in Santa Fe for work. And he said, well, I have to be there for 2 months. Why don't you and the kids come with me? And I said, well, I can't just take them out of school and, go up to Santa Fe. And that just doesn't seem like it's a thing. So one thing led to another, and everything just kept falling into place for me to do that. So it made it so easy. So I did, and we come up here, and my youngest daughter has this little teddy bear, and she named the bear Julie Bear. She still has the bear, and she's off to her new little school. And she says, "Mom, when I am at school today, will you write me a story about Julie Bear?" Well, and I said, "Okay." Well, I did not have the distractions of home, right? I didn't really know anyone in Santa Fe. We got this really tiny little rental, so there wasn't a lot of stuff to do there. I wasn't working out of the house, and I wasn't, so I had a lot of free time, in other words. So I remember the legal pad. I had the legal pad, and I sat down with a pen. I remember curling up, pulling my knees into my chest, real cozy, looking out across. It was winter and it was snowing. And I put the pen to page, and I kid you not, I start writing about Julie Bear. And something sparked inside of me I get chills talking about it. Something sparked in me so powerful. I just kept going and going and going and going and going. And I was like, I was really scared, and I thought, I don't know if I can trust this, but I kind of just let my hand go. And it was like I was channeling something, right?
Yes.
And so I end up falling in love. I'm like, why have I never written? I've always been a storyteller. I come from an oral storytelling tradition. And, I've loved books from the time I was a very early reader. I loved books from the time I was, I'm tiny. And but I'd never actually, I don't remember, surely I did in school, but I don't remember actually writing fiction, right? My degrees were I have a master's degree in English, but it was rhetoric. So it had nothing to do with fiction. And so long story short, that ended up becoming my first book. And when I was writing, I became so obsessed, so singularly focused on this story that I knew it wasn't just a story for my daughter. And I started realizing that I was creating chapter breaks. And I always tell, whenever I speak to young writers or aspiring authors, I always tell them, we're all wired for story, right? Every single one of us. And it's just a matter of trusting that process, because we've all ingested narrative. We've consumed it, whether you watch film or whether you read poetry or fiction or not. There's narrative is all around us. And so I start realizing I'm doing chapter breaks naturally. And I would say halfway through, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm writing a book. And I couldn't wait to go back to the page because I wanted to know what was going to happen, right? And so I thought, you know what? If I can finish this book, that is the greatest accomplishment. I will have written a book. And I wrote the book and I set it aside and I was, well, now what? And when I tell you, I was led to all the right places. I mean, now it did require my work and it required me saying yes, but I was like, okay, how do I do this? Do I try to get it published? I mean, I was living in Las Cruces, New Mexico at the time, right? So I was nowhere near New York City where, the heart of publishing. And I had no one in my family was from publishing. I didn't know anybody who'd been published. And so one thing led to another, and it was a series of events. It was a very sequential process. And I did a ton of work and research and networking. And then it got published.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jen, would you say that, because you've written many books now, I love that was the story of your first. Would you say that the subsequent books that you've written have also been channeled?
All of them have been channeled. Every single idea that comes to me, it just comes from somewhere else. I mean, I don't know how any other way to describe it. I'm not, every writer has an Achilles heel. I really struggle with battle scenes, for example. And there's certain things I struggle with as a writer. What I don't struggle with is ideas. There are so many. I mean, they just literally come pouring. They just come out here. I'm gesturing over my head. Because I wish I could tell you where it came from, but.
Yeah. Can you talk at all about what it feels like? Because in earlier episodes, we've talked about people experience their intuition differently. Like sometimes I'll hear things like like an idea will pop in as a thought, but it's like a voice almost. Other people feel, like a tingling in their belly, or, tingling. How does it drop in for you? Because it sounds like it's pretty clear.
The ideas come to me in a scene. I've only had one book come to me audibly, and we can talk about that later because I just sent that proposal to my agent this morning. So it's not a actual book yet. And so I have visions, is how it comes to me. I've had visions since I was a young child. I am not psychic. I do not see the future, but I have had moments where I have seen the future. And often, funnily enough, it's usually with people I don't know very well. It's not with people who are really close to me. And so I'll give you an example. One of my books, I've been writing middle grade fiction. There's many age categories, and that's usually about age 8 to 14. And I've been writing, quests and adventures and magical novels. And I had no interest in ever writing for other age categories. And I used to tell people, I will never write young adult. I will never write adult. I only want to play in the kids space. That's where the imagination's at. Like, that's where I love to be. Well, funnily enough, as is, usual, and you both know, the universe had other plans. And one day, I think it was during COVID. I remember very clearly. And I had a vision of a woman on her deathbed, and 3 young women were surrounding her deathbed, and they were each leaning in, and she was whispering something in their ear. And I had to know what she was whispering. And I was like, So I start writing. And as I write, that book ended up becoming Flirting with Fate. And as I'm writing, I realize this is a young adult novel, and I'm mad. I'm mad about it. Right? And I'm thinking, that's rude. I don't want to write a young adult novel.
Right.
And, we always talk about choice, and we can say yes or no, but sometimes I actually don't think we have a choice. In my life, I've experienced that. And so I was like, okay, fine. I will write this book. And ended up going to auction. And is one of my favorite books that I've written. And I think it really kind of paved the way for some other. So I ended up writing an adult book and others. So going back to your question, Angela, I think it's a matter of sometimes it's a vision. Sometimes it's literally, I can hear the voice. It's audible. Other times it's a feeling that just vibrates through my entire being, and I don't feel my human body in. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's so great. One of the things that we're so excited about with doing these interviews is we're hearing, and our audience is hearing, our listeners are hearing all the different ways that it shows up, right? Because it is so unique to everybody. So I love what you just shared. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is so unique to everyone. And there isn't, just because it happens one way for Martha or Angela or whoever, doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to happen for you. And one's not better than the other, right?
Right. That's right.
Whatever. I mean, if you could be open enough to receive it, I think is the key.
That's right. And back to your original story, which is pay attention to the big warehouse in front of you, right? With no sign. What is that there in front of me? And just being curious, right? And exploratory around it is so key.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jen, I have a question. I know the Enchanted Hacienda book that you wrote and the Anatomy of Magic both have flower magic in them. And they're very gorgeous. And I have such a vivid, it's not my imagination, it's yours. The way you described it is so vivid for me, and the way that I feel like I lived in that space. I'm so curious about the flower magic. Where did that come from and through you? And what is that? What is your connection to flowers in that way?
Well, first of all, is your imagination, Martha, because you're the reader. Right? Sometimes I will, and it was interesting. I think someone had written in a review, well, she didn't describe the dog, and I wanted to see more about the dog, or something like that. And I oftentimes will, most of the time, give very little description about a certain character. Obviously, I didn't do that about the place, but just because I want the reader to kind of imagine what that person looks like for them. And so Enchanted Hacienda was another one that I had a vision, And I can still see it so clearly. It was these rolling hills during the golden hour, and it was a sea of color and all these gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. They were kind of wafting in the wind. And it was the only book that's ever come to me without a person in the vision. I've never had a setting come. And so I remember thinking, but I was so enamored with this place, this vision, that I thought, I want to know more about that. And I started writing, and I knew there was magic in the soil. I knew there was enchantment in the flowers. I wanted to know who lived there. I knew women. I knew it was a very feminine-driven book. I knew women lived there, and I knew that they cultivated the magic, but what did that mean? And I wanted to create a system that was not, I wanted each woman to possess her own unique magic, right? So they didn't all possess the exact same thing. And it was going to be based on, their name, because each of these women was named for a flower. And then there was a different delivery system of the magic. So, memory magic, for example, might need to be breathed in. It might need to be kind of ingested. Dream magic might be a petal under the pillow. Ghost magic was all about, that was a very earthly connected thing. Or maybe you etch onto a stem and then you bury it in the earth. And so I kind of wanted to play in that space because I think it's so much fun.
Yes.
And writing a book is really hard. So I try and have as much fun as
Yeah, totally. Yep.
And so it felt like a very natural thing for me because I've always, as I said earlier, I've always been very in tune with nature. And, we didn't have a lot growing up. But my mom would always have a single daisy in a little tiny bud vase, or, maybe we'd cut some on a walk, or, there was always this connection to flowers. And so as I grew up and, had my own home, I always have fresh flowers in my home. Gardening is a really, really spiritual practice for me. And my daughters have followed suit. And so it's a really lovely thing that we've passed on. And so it felt like a very natural takeaway from what I'd already experienced, and then just bringing it to the page in a way that, hopefully would excite readers in the same way it excited me.
One of the things I love about what you're saying is something Martha talks about a lot, which is the play, right? That intuition is playful and just, make it up, pretend, and let it drop in. So I really appreciate that you're echoing that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it can be, there are times when I feel, because for me, intuition often asks me a question, right? And it's usually a yes or no question. And, sometimes I don't want to play.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think Mark and I had this conversation one time. I remember one time being asked to do something, through my intuitive process, and I was in the car and I literally had to pull my car because it was like the sixth sign and I was getting mad, and I literally had to pull my car over and like shake my fist at the sky and say, fine. Okay. I will.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So I love that you have so many great stories about being so directly guided and so directly in conversation with whatever you call it, divine. What do you call it? Spirit, source. Yeah. Yeah.
Divine. Sometimes the divine. It just depends. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, Jen, when you have, we talk about Ange is like an expert with the left brain and intuition, and the right brain is the creative space. And we both play in both, but I'm curious how you, like in the beginning, you said fear comes up, right? And that blocks it for you. I'm curious what you do, because some days, right, we've got an influx of sad news from whatever's happening in the world or something going on in your own smaller world. And I'm curious, what do you do when you have those times that, your channel's not as clear?
Well, I think one of the things that's really challenging is I've been on deadline for the last, I think, 8 books. And so what that means is oftentimes you'll write a book, and then if you go the traditional publishing route, most publishers require that you have an agent. So you send your book to your agent, you go through an editing process, and then the agent is responsible to sell your book. And I have been, you can say fortunate or not fortunate, depending on kind of how you look at the world. But we've sold my last, I want to say, I don't quote my numbers, but roughly 8, 10 books, whatever, on proposal. So that means that they sell with 50 pages, kind of get to the turning point of the story or that inciting incident, and then a synopsis of the book. And so that means it's really wonderful because then you don't spend 300 or 400 or 500 pages on a book and find out it can't get sold, which is never a waste ever. I know now.
Right.
It's all part of the process. But on the other hand, you sell the book, like we sold Stormrunner on a proposal, and it's this is the only book that I know how many pages are in it. It's 448 pages. It was the novel. It was my second novel, and it was sold to Disney. And Disney came back and said, "Yes, we're going to buy this. This is great, and you have 3 months to write the book."
Wow.
And I had written out of 448 pages, I'd written about 30 pages. So that is all to say that when I'm on deadline, Martha,
Yes.
when my intuition doesn't want to play, I just have to force my way through it. I'm getting better about tuning into it because, if I write without my intuition, I know that I'm sitting here typing and I'm going to erase every single word at the end of the day. I know I'm going to because I don't feel anything. And if I don't feel anything, how can my readers feel anything? Because I think that there's this really beautiful relationship between all art and the receiver.
Yeah.
It's almost like your channels connect across time and across. I mean, even if that artist is no longer with us. And so I will often go on a hike. I will sit down and read poetry. I will often take a couple of days off. Sometimes 3-4 days off, which I never did early in my career. I was terrified if I took days off that somehow this magical component of my writing process was just going to vanish. And funnily enough, when I do that, I come back with this, I filled the well, and then I can sit down and I can write 2 whole chapters, which may not sound like a lot to the listeners and to people who aren't writers, but that's a great day. Let me tell you.
Yes.
And I can do that in a time frame that is like time doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've made up all those pieces, but it took me a long time to get there. I didn't trust. And I think fear kind of took over. So I think if sometimes I'll go, I have an altar, at my house. It's a stone altar out front. I have to show it to you. But anyway, it's down the drive and it's at the edge of the woods. And sometimes I'll go sit out there and it's right between 2 beautiful mountains and I will just meditate. I don't meditate in the traditional sense. I'm not good at it, but I do like to get quiet and I do like to listen for a breeze. I like to listen to the birds. I like to, wait for a hummingbird to come by and I just need that one little spark.
Yes.
But I generally can only get it when I'm in nature.
Great.
I love that. And I love, Jen, how you said in the beginning, like you would panic that the channel or that the magical intuitive channel was just going to kind of go away. I had that when I started channeling in my therapy sessions with clients. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I hope I can do it next time. I hope I can do it next time, right? And I would clamp up and then it would be sort of coming through, but I couldn't really get it, And then the more I just realize it's just and I do all this stuff, inspiration and things to enhance my creativity and all that. It's become more easy to tap into it on demand. But yes, I totally get that.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about how clear you are with it and how it comes to you. Has there been a time when you clearly got the hit and you didn't go with it and you regretted it later?
Oh my gosh, of course. Of course. It's interesting. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself and I read a lot of books and I watch podcasts and it's always funny to me. I have to remember, interviews are oftentimes highlight reels, right? And this may be the place I'm in today and tomorrow I could wake up and be not at all in tune with my intuition and the spirit world and, whatever else. But yeah, I mean, I think that there have been times nothing big though. I don't think I would ever make a big choice or decision without being guided. I won't do it. And if it means I have to take more time to think about something, then I will. But one example, it's kind of a little bit metaphorical, but when I first started writing, I would force my characters to do things, and and they had a mind of their own. And I was like, no, I don't want you to go find the wolf in the middle. I want you to go do this. And it would resist me and resist me. This must feel like with us, right? It's like, come on, right? And I would just keep pushing and pushing. So as I became more seasoned as a writer, I finally was like taking my hands off the wheel. I am surrendering. I am going to let you say and do whatever you want, no matter how ridiculous it sounds and no matter how much I think it's not going to drive the plot. And guess what? My characters are smarter than I am.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too.
They are. They're so much smarter if I would just get out of my own way and let them have the page. And so it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, right? Getting out of our own way, surrendering, and just letting things flow.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Jen, we love to end on a question that is wondering, what is one intuitive nudge or magical idea that you're currently listening to, even if you don't know where it's leading you yet?
Well, I have one that I know where it's leading. I don't know if you want to hear that one. I don't know that I have. Okay, well, two things. First, and it kind of, I think I spoke about it a little bit ago, and it was about when we were talking about kind of the sensory of intuition. And I said I usually have a vision, and this is the only audible. And so it's what I just sent to my agent. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm just going to the bathroom, 3 o'clock in the morning. And literally the voice was, what if dogs were smarter than humans? That was it. That's all I got.
I love that.
And I was like, that's weird. And I ended up creating this world of canines that are these mythological creatures that once stalked through a place called the Infinite Forest. So all of our forests in this book, all of our forests on this planet are connected the way the ocean is connected. There's no separation. It's an infinite forest. It's boundless. And the Umbra Paw, these shadow paws who live there, they guard these 6 doors and there's this whole magical realm, and they are smarter and better than humans. And so I ran with it, and it's turned into this entire, what hopefully will be a book, right? I have been feeling something recently, and you tell me if this happens to, I'm sure it happens to both of you, but I can't name it yet. Right? It's not clear to me yet. And it's right here. Like, it's like this unformed idea, but it's so good. Like, it's so good. And it's so good.
I love it.
I feel it vibrating, and I'm just letting it vibrate no matter how manic I seem thinking about it.
You're kind of pointing, Jen, you're pointing to your solar plexus? Is that what you're?
Yeah. And it is, guys, it's so wonderful and exciting. And I don't know what that thing is. And it's okay. It's okay that I don't know what it is. But I guarantee I guarantee you it will reveal itself before the end of this year. I guarantee it.
Love it.
You just
don't know what it is.
Intuitive knowing.
I
have this intuitive knowing. It's good. Oh my gosh, I love that. I always feel like I'm like almost like buzzing after I meet with you, because you have this such a for me, magic and intuition and inspiration and creativity are just where I could live all the time. And you embody that in such an insanely beautiful, full way. And I just so appreciate you. So thank you so much for coming on.
I feel the same. I feel the same way about you.
Thank you so much. And very inspiring, like just all the different ways it can come in and ways to trust it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'm loving your podcast. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with the world. I'm so excited for both of you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will look forward to catching up with you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, friends, you thought we were gone, but we're back. I'm glad you stayed.
If you like what you heard, click those 5 stars. And if you really like what you heard, please write us a review.
and share with your friends.
Thanks.